A lot of times when I'm running games, I have a hard time getting some players to bite at the thing that I want them to do. We'll just refer to it as the thing, whether that's the hook of the adventure or the encounter you want them to go to or the NPC that you want them to talk to. But really what it comes down to is, that thing that you want them to do and why it is that they're not doing it. So generally it comes down to one of about 5 things. So I've done the kind of the top 5 things that I've found keep players and their characters from going after the thing that you want them to go after. Number 1, the thing is not interesting. You've made the thing, you have not presented it in a way that grabs them. Now this could be just some way that you wrote it, or maybe you weren't thinking about their character motivations when you put it together, or it's outshined by something else in the game. It's just, for whatever reason, it is not interesting at all, and your players just don't grab it. So what you can do to avoid that is to make sure that you are kind of cross-referencing what you're writing with what your players are up to, and what their characters are about. It's not, you don't want to pander, because that's gonna be obvious, and they're gonna they're gonna get wise to you on that one, and they're really just gonna go ahead and veer away from that. But make sure that you take a little bit of time to make sure that that thing that you want your players to do is something that they would want to do in the first place. So the next thing really would be that it distracts the players or the characters, and those may be one and the same, and in many cases they are, in most cases they are, but in a lot of cases, the players' motivations may differ from the characters' motivations, especially if you have a heavy role player in the group. So what we're talking about here is you've got this thing that you've put out there for them, but they're maybe already focused on another thing. They really don't want to go off and chase the new thing that you've created. They want to continue. So as they're on the road through the Underdark to the newest, to the next outpost for the Svirfneblin, and you throw a moaning cavern off to the left with something shiny and glimmery down there, they may just continue going, because while that's really cool, they've got a mission. They've got to get to the Svirfneblin outpost to get the supplies there, or to reinforce the outpost against an impending drow attack. Whatever the case is, it's just not something that they're able to do at this time. So really the key to this is either avoid throwing out new tasty tidbits that are en route into something major while their players are on a very focused quest, or do so in a way to where they are little minor side jaunts, or just simply place them in the player's way. Rather than a side jaunt, why not turn that moaning cavern into a sort of random encounter, or an encounter that's planned along the way? The party is walking down the cave, maybe they get disoriented, they get lost, they find themselves in this side cave, realizing that something has led them astray, and then now they have to deal with that, and then they'll come back to the other thing. They'll eventually go back to their path to the Svirfneblin outpost. Another thing that can really cause your players to really not bite at the thing is that they see that it's too hard or it's too easy. And it may seem weird, too easy. You have an advanced party and you throw a threat of a bunch of goblins that are terrorizing a village at them. It may not be worth their time. This kind of also ties into that not interesting part. It just may really be something that let the town guard take care of that. We are level 10, we're level 15. What is a band of goblins got to do for us? The other thing that happens a lot is, if your party is careful, if your players are a little bit more careful, maybe they're inexperienced, maybe they've just been hit hard the last few encounters or last few adventures, maybe they're really resource poor at this point, maybe they're not playing optimally for the stats or the abilities that they've given their characters, they may see an encounter as too hard. Even if that encounter is built at that CR that they're at, they may very well perceive it as a difficult encounter or a difficult task or a difficult plot hook and forgo chasing after that. So really the key here is just to make sure that you're reading where your party's at. Again, seems to be a recurring theme here, and that's because it is. Know where your party's at, know where your players are at. Make sure that the encounters you're creating for them are going to be interesting and worth their while. They're not going to be too hard, they're not going to be too easy, or if they are hard, the story payout is enough to have them go to after that, particular thing. Or if it is too easy, work it in as part of a greater plot. So the goblins attack, the party maybe ignores it until over the hill rides the goblin war chief astride his tamed Catoblepus. This thing is now, there's something interesting about this. It's not so easy. There's a tough opponent, and while the town guard may be able to take care of those goblins and their short bows and their short swords or their scimitars, whatever it is they have, that leader on that nasty beast with the death gaze is going to go ahead and cause them some problems. Excuse me. The other thing is, really when you're creating encounters, if they are easily avoided and your party has a good reason to avoid them, they will avoid them. Or they might, most likely they're going to avoid them. So creating encounters that are easily avoided takes off the impetus for them to go ahead and go after the thing. Lastly, sometimes your players just don't want to do the thing that you want them to do. Now, this kind of seems like it's invested in the it's tied up there in that very first point that it's not interesting enough, but it could be that it's not even that. They just don't want to. It's not that it's not interesting. It might be interesting. It's not that it's too hard. It might not be too hard. It's not that it's a side jaunt. It's not that it's easily avoided. It could be that they're having an off day and they just don't want to do it. If you're getting that read off the table, it might be best maybe just to go ahead and say, hey, you guys really aren't feeling this tonight. I'm trying to run the adventure. I'm getting kind of a dead room off you guys. Maybe we should play a board game. Maybe we should talk about the campaign. Maybe we should do a little bit of world building. Whatever it is that your party wants. Let's go kill shit on the video game, on the console. Whatever it takes. But thing to remember is your players want to play the game. They want to have adventures. They want to have encounters. It is up to you as the DM to constantly be checking and reading the party, reading their characters, interacting with them, conversing with them. In my groups, I have a Facebook group for each campaign that I run. We talk constantly on those. I'm always throwing out little bits of lore. If they have traveled into a new region, rather than have them go through and waste a bunch of time in role playing, because we only get to play once every 2 weeks, and we only get to play for only a 4-hour session. I'll throw up some common knowledge. I might even throw, if one of the players is from that area, I'll throw up a map with key locations. I'll ask them how they feel. What's the politics of the area? In my current Tronvold campaign, I've gone ahead and posted little pieces of information as to how it was formed, why it's important, and that sets sort of, at least on the meta level, a better investment and understanding in the game. And meta is not bad. That's not the subject of this video, but it's never wrong to do some sort of meta for your players, because you want them as players to buy in, even if their characters may be cautious. So if you're trying to get your party to take advantage and jump at those things that you put in front of them, remember to make sure that the thing is interesting, that it's not distracting from something else, that it's not too hard or not too easy, and if it is, that there is some sort of greater payoff for the party going after that. Make sure that it's not easily avoided, and you know what? Be ready to accept the fact that sometimes your players just don't want that thing. Anyways, if you have other suggestions for how to get your parties to go after the thing that you've thrown in front of them, go ahead and throw it in the comments below. If you've had problems with specific things, particular story elements or plot points that you just can't get anybody to bite, put them on down there below, or you can email me over at baittheelf@gmail.com. You can get a hold of me over on Twitter at elfbait, and there is the Elfbait Facebook group where you can also post those questions, and often the group will answer them for you, I'll answer them for you, we'll all answer them for you. Either way, talk about it, converse about it. I've been doing this for a while. I've been a GM since grade school, and that's a long time. I started out with in 79 is when I started playing. So I've been through a few editions, and I've seen a lot of players come and go, and I've seen players who are good, players who are bad. I've seen bad players act like good players, and good players act like bad players. But that's why I do these videos. Anyways, get out and game, and thanks for coming by.